Now, I know some of our viewers are tax professionals, and they've heard about some of these gourmet plans for businesses out there, and a lot of them probably don't want to talk to their clients about this because they're worried there might be some kind of IRS audit or anything. Is there anything along the lines of, the safety of the IRS not coming in and starting to open the books on your client?
Absolutely. In fact, I take the position that I'm not all that bright. So I do not want to have these tax shelter scams that I don't understand and I can't explain to my clients. With Aviva, before Aviva can work, you actually apply to the IRS for a tax determination letter.
Right.
They are required to have them. And most of the Avivas we work with have been in business 20 or 25 years. And they have been audited 4 or 5 times. And that's what you want. You want Aviva that's been audited many times by the IRS. Because that tax determination letter says, in effect, it's the IRS problem if there's a problem with Aviva. That means you get to come back and change it retroactively. The whole plan doesn't blow up.
Right.
In fact, that determination letter says this is not a tax shelter. This is within the code. We love this as the IRS because you're following the rules. My wealthier clients love that. We're not playing a guessing game about maybe we'll be audited and maybe we won't. We don't care because we know we pass muster. That's the key here.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about the 412I on the plan before, and there were some, what we call in Iowa, the pigs get fat, the hogs get slaughtered.
Right.
And I think there were a lot of companies out there that were trying to cram too much into something that kind of had fuzzy borders on it. So they have defined either the 419 and the 412I over the last, what, two years or 3 years or so.
Right. There were some shady characters, as happens from time to time in any business, getting and trying to do things that Congress and the IRS really didn't want to happen. They weren't really playing the rules. They were playing around the rules.
Right.
That always makes me uncomfortable. I think if you understand the rules and you play within them, and you keep it nice and vanilla flavored. Because, I don't want this blowing up on me if I put a client in there 10 years later. I want the client to be happy.
Well, you're their tax advisor, too, so if you're putting them in his plans and the IRS comes down, you're going to be involved anyway.
Oh, absolutely, and I don't want to be sued. I don't want to be sued for some harebrained scheme.
Right.
I want to make sure this passes muster and we're not going to have a problem.
Now, you've written a book, have you not?
I have.
And
it's called The Lazy CPA's Guide to Adding Financial Services to Your Tax Practice.
So any of you CPAs out there or tax professionals that might be watching this show, you might want to go on the internet and just check it out and kind of get an idea of how to add financial services, because you guys are probably the closest thing to a client of any of the professionals that they deal with in general, right?
Well, I like to think so, but I want to be clear, we never want to breach the trust of the client.
Right.
You see, my family is pretty close to me, and my clients are right outside that family circle. I want to protect them. I want to take care of them. And just because we're adding another service, whether that be financial planning or business valuation, whatever it is, that doesn't mean we should breach the trust of the client. We should always do what's best for the client first.
And that's part of the problem I think a lot of CPAs had, especially in California, because we had this conflict of interest issue till about, what, 2001, I believe, wasn't it?
Well, I think it was 1998, and the gentleman that was spearheaded it in California was a fellow by the name of Ross Johnson. He was a CPA up in Northern California, and Ross sat on a lot of the society committees. And he'd say very notoriously, this is what I do because I really am helping my client. I give them a real plan. When I send them out for a plan, they come back with a tax shelter, some limited partnership interest or something. He said, so we need to get the laws changed. So the state of California sued Ross as a test case. And then they realized they were on the wrong side of the stick, so they didn't want to finish that lawsuit. They kept Ross in limbo for years and years until finally the legislature changed the law. They dropped the case against Ross, and he's really become a hero in our industry.
Oh, well, that's great. I really think that, the CPA that I use, of course, I don't even do a lot of my own personal financial planning. I let some other folks do it because of that emotional attachment to it.
Sure, it's very, very strong.
And I think there's something that you can do to have a little bit more control. As you said, coming home with a tax shelter type of a program, you don't have control over that as far as your client is concerned, and then you got to fix it after the fact.
Right, and keep in mind, we're in the business to keep a client for 20 years or longer. That's the CPA's mentality. That's our role. We're not great marketers about going out and getting the next client. We get clients through referrals by doing a good job day in and day out. The statistics are that the average wirehouse broker keeps a client less than 18 months. So they're constantly in a marketing mode. That's not the environment I want to live in.
Right.
I want to focus on the client.
Well, you can see why I enjoy coming to these conferences we have. Actually, we do these big ones twice a year. You probably saw a couple of the tapes on the shows in July. We got a great resource team here at Money Concepts, and it's all about being able to find an answer. I don't know everything. Nick doesn't know everything.
Absolutely.
But we got the folks, I mean, 400 people from across the world that we have at these conferences. So, Nick, I want to thank you for being on the show.